Everyone has a personal face space that they've never told anyone about. The faces you show when absorbed in hobbies with that special person during day and night, the more you try to hide your secrets, the likelier they are to be revealed. Women's progress in society continues today. In an era when women's advancement was still just a dream, a so-called elite who joined Tokyo Electric Power as a general employee got caught up in trouble. Later, a side of her that she never showed at work was revealed, and that incident became the trigger that led her down a path she should never have taken. Today, I will introduce the case that brought those days back to light, the Tokyo Electric Power murder case. On March 19, 1997, just after 5 p.m. in Maruyama-cho, Shibuya Ward, Tokyo, the body of Yasuko Watanabe was discovered in room 101 on the first floor of a wooden apartment building. At 39, she worked at Tokyo Electric Power Company's Tokyo headquarters. Her neck had strangulation marks, and semen was found in her body. She had been dead for several days. The apartment owner, who also ran the place, reported it. The manager of the Nepalese restaurant. According to the results of the investigation, it is believed that she was killed by someone between 11:30 p.m. on March 8 and around 12:30 a.m. the next day, and she was discovered afterward. A Nepalese man living next door to the apartment is a prime suspect. Arrested and indicted on suspicion of robbery and murder, the man has consistently denied the charges. After 12 years in prison, he was found not guilty. Over 20 years later, the case remains unresolved. The case remains unsolved. The victim's identity, character, and the motive behind her targeting are still unknown. Why was the man of Nepalese nationality suspected, and who is the real culprit? I would like to explain each point one by one. Let's begin by discussing the victim's background and specifics of what occurred. She was born in 1957 and grew up in Eifuku, Suginami Ward. After graduating from the local junior high school, she went on to an all-girls high school and then entered the Faculty of Economics at O University. After graduating from the university in March 1980, she joined Tokyo Electric Power Company. This was the first time Tokyo Electric Power Company hired a woman as a full-time employee. It was an unprecedented case. She worked in the company's planning and research department. She focused on how the nation's finances, tax system, and their management would affect the electric power industry. She conducted research and was said to be extremely talented. However, she didn't go out drinking with her superiors or colleagues, and she hardly had any private relationships. She had a hidden side that she didn't show at work. Her hidden side, that was selling her own body. It is believed that her father's death was related to this. She was adored by her father since childhood and saw him as the perfect man. However, her father suddenly died of cancer while she was in college. Perhaps in pursuit of her father's image, she ended up joining Tokyo Electric Power Company, where her father had worked. Even after joining the company, the hole in her heart remained unfilled. In 1988, at age 28, she developed anorexia nervosa. The next year, she started working part-time as a hostess and eventually began soliciting in the Maruyama area. She set a daily quota of 4 clients and engaged in sexual acts with anyone available. After work on weekdays, she would go to Maruyama and stay until the last train. Every day, she worked at an adult entertainment venue in Gotanda on Saturdays and solicited in Maruyama at night without fail. The last train from the New Line station was at 12:34 a.m. She would get in her car and go home. She kept living like that. To add, her annual income was 10 million yen, so she wasn't struggling with money at all. It's likely that she was in a state similar to what we would now call an illness. Apparently, she had about 1 yen in savings. Every day, every single day, she was seeking physical intimacy as if she was obsessed. She was murdered on Saturday, March 8, 1997 at 6:40 p.m. She met an elderly man in front of Shibuya Hachiko and headed toward the Maruyama district. They visited a convenience store, purchased oden, and departed. This had become part of her daily routine, and the staff also remembered her well. After leaving the convenience store, they went to the Crystal Hotel in Maruyama town. At 10:16 post-meridian, they checked out and separated. Since she still had time before the last train, she headed toward Dogenzaka. Around 11 o'clock post-meridian, she disappeared into 11:30 post-meridian. She and a man in a black and white jumper were seen entering the apartment where the incident would take place. A young man witnessed this. This turned out to be the last sighting of her while she was alive. And then, about 10 days later, on March 19th, she was found. Since the estimated time of death was between 11:30 post-meridian and 12:30 ante-meridian, it is believed that the man in the jumper is probably the culprit. So far, we've talked about her and the details of the case, but after she was found, about 2 months later on May 20th, a man was arrested on suspicion of robbery and murder. The man's name is Govinda Prasad Mainali, a Nepalese national who lived in the building next to the apartment where she was found. The evidence cited for his arrest was what was left at the scene. It was found on a used condom. Semen and body hair were found, and the results of the A analysis revealed that they belonged to Mr. Govinda. However, while he admitted to having had sexual intercourse with her, he claimed that it happened before the day she was killed. In addition, he was working at another location that day, and it would have been difficult for him to get to Maruyama town afterward in the time available. In the first trial, the defendant was found not guilty. However, on December 22, 2000 in the fifth trial, in the appeal trial, Mr. Dan admitted that the items left at the scene and several other things belonged to him. Based on circumstantial evidence, he was found guilty, sentenced to life imprisonment, and taken into custody. "God, I didn't do it." He shouted this when the guilty verdict was handed down. That's right. However, his supporters, who felt that this guilty verdict was strange, took action and discovered various things. Among them, it was found that a total of 16 hairs were left at the scene, and 2 of them could not be identified as belonging to anyone. In 2011, the defense filed a request for a retrial and asked for DNA testing to be conducted on the evidence collected from the scene that had not yet been analyzed. As a result, it was detected from the semen left on the body. It was found that A did not match his, but did match some of the body hair left at the scene, and incredibly, it was known from the time of the incident that the blood type of the semen left inside the body did not match Govinda's blood type. In other words, the existence of a third party was suspected from the very beginning. Even though it was suspected, he was arrested without a thorough investigation into that matter. After 12 years since his arrest, he was finally found not guilty and returned to Nepal. With Govinda's acquittal, everything was back to square one. Who is the real culprit in this case? As we pursued the truth, there was a puzzling mystery. Her commuter pass was found in a house far from Maruyama town. This discovery led a journalist to focus on a certain individual. Through the journalist's investigation, it became clear that there were numerous testimonies about this person. It is known what kind of life this person led, and for some reason, right after the incident, after Govinda's arrest, the individual who had disappeared from Maruyama town returned there in relation to the case. At that time, he was staying at a friend's house in Suni, only a few hundred meters from where the commuter pass was found. This person often used the hot spring facility was just a stone's throw from where the commuter pass was found. It is also known that he had contact with her. He talked among his friends about her having a large amount of money, and there are stories that before the incident, he argued with her trying to take her money. Before the incident, she had been the victim of a purse snatching. After that, he suddenly started telling people around him that she was an employee of Tokyo Electric Power Company. He often wore a black jumper. Furthermore, suspicions grew even stronger after the incident. He displayed strange behavior, such as putting cigarette butts he smoked at restaurants into a plastic bag and taking them home. Perhaps he was wary of having his DNA collected. His blood type is type O. There's no way I'm getting caught. This journalist tried to meet and talk with him directly, but he left those words behind and disappeared. Was it really his crime, or was it someone else's? Other than matters related to this, nothing is known. The day before she died, she was seen walking together with the owner of the building where she was found, looking friendly. Someone argued with her at the Maruyama town mahjong parlor. Regrettably, everyone remains silent about the case and her. It seems the entire town is collaborating to conceal the truth. Moreover, as we attempt to uncover the real story behind this case, most of the people who gave important testimony to this journalist have already passed away. Since the statute of limitations has been abolished, there is still a possibility that the real culprit could be caught, but one thing that is certain at this point is that the real culprit still hasn't been held accountable for their crime. That is the case. At the time, they were in their 40s, which means if they're still alive now, they'd be in their 60s. This is why we can't say it has nothing to do with us. You don't always have to be aware that someone who committed a terrible crime might be right next to you, but if you feel suspicious or sense danger, please make sure to stay alert. I believe incidents like this should never happen again. Once the truth comes to light, the perpetrator will be arrested. I sincerely pray for the happiness of Mr. Watanabe, who passed away at the young age of 39. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.